Johnny, I know there's other markets you can go after, but if you're honest with yourself, how much more efficient is it for me to go and grow the current thing 30% versus starting from zero and building it up 30% to where I'm at? This thing's usually 3 to 4 times easier. Johnny, how's it going?
Hi, Dan. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing incredible. Super excited for our chat today. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to explain product, what problem you solve, who do you solve it for? Tell us more about your business.
Yeah. So my name's Johnny Clark. I'm CEO of a company called Locate a Locum. So we help healthcare organizations manage both their temporary and their permanent staff. We're actually a SaaS-enabled marketplace. I'm not sure how many of those you've came across, Dan, but it's a unique business model, which creates opportunities and also challenges as well.
Cool. And how long have you been doing it? What's the size of the business, either GMV or what can you share?
Yeah, I've been doing it close to 5 years. So about 35 employees, and we're at about 2 million ARR.
Very cool. Congrats. Marketplaces are like having twins. They're super hard to do. I did that with Clarity. And I actually coach a lot of clients that have kind of SaaS-enabled marketplaces. And they're super fun. If you can get them to work, man, they are some of the most powerful business models out there. Johnny, how can I help?
Yeah, so one of my challenges, Dan, is growing the account management function. So on our SaaS side of the business, we have very, very large enterprise accounts. We work with one of the largest pharmacy chains here in the UK. And I really want to strengthen out that team. So the question really for you today is, what do I look for in an account manager hire? How senior do I recruit? This company is huge and they're not going to deal with any newbie that's going to get walked over. And the last part of that is, how do I manage them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Johnny, I love that you're thinking about this because it tells me that, you care about expansion revenue, activation, onboarding, renewals, because account management is this like really cool function that I feel like software companies are starting to learn about. It's kind of in the customer success realm. And, before it used to be like agencies, consulting companies would have these account managers, enterprise deals. But it's really become kind of this groundswell of realizing that if I can activate, engage, and expand a customer, the ROI on investing in a person to support that account over time is worth that investment, right? Especially if you have like a high annual contract value type customer. The way I always recommend my clients to hire those people is find people from the industry. So if you know that there's a certain vertical, like you mentioned pharma, is there other pharma companies that you currently support?
Yeah, so it's pharmacies, like you might call it a chemist is another word. So yeah, there would be other technology companies in the pharmacy space that I could probably recruit from. Obviously they would
But not even technology companies. So you sell to a pharmacy itself. Do you sell to the pharmacist or to the owner of the pharmacy?
Both. It depends on what size the pharmacy is. So if it's a single pharmacy, we would sell to the pharmacist because they're generally the owner. But we've been really focused about who our ideal customer is. And we've been going down the enterprise route. We've built out SDR function, account executive, and that landed us our biggest deal really last year. So
and that's the one you want to staff with an account manager.
Yes. Yeah, we will. We don't mind an account manager looking after the little ones, but it'd be more on a much less.
Sometimes you can't afford to do it. So that's why I asked, right? The contract value is going to set what percentage of your revenue from an account you can associate to a CSM or account manager type role. So the bigger account obviously has more margin for you to be able to do this with. And the truth is they need this. So I teach this framework called the EBR Flow Planner, Executive Business Review Flow. It's kind of like a 9-box model for how to structure meetings. So I'll definitely probably link it up below for people to download. I do offer it up, but you actually have access to it, so you can go check that out.
I've marked it down.
Yeah, it's a good one. So then what I would do is I would hire somebody, because right now that client is a pharmacy company. They have multiple locations, correct?
Yeah, a lot.
Perfect. So hire somebody not in tech. It doesn't have to be in tech. It could be, but truthfully, you just want somebody that knows how to speak the language of the industry. So if I was selling to, let's call it automotive, right? So like car part type of company, and there's like these conglomerates, or even better, like a building company, like a Home Depot, right? I would want to find people that used to be account managers for Home Depot type companies. Even in other industries, they could have been in finance, like a consulting firm like Accenture or Deloitte. They could have been in media buying. They could have been in marketing agencies or whatever. Because like at the end of the day, managing a project, managing an account, managing expectations, coordinating resources within your organization and theirs, that's something that that person would have experience in. And what's really appreciated typically is the unique understanding of the business and the business model, right? When you have somebody that comes in and they can only speak your technology, but they can't speak the pharmacist technology or the pharmacy's challenges, then that's what's really missed. So I'm always looking for, we call them CSM, so customer success managers, but we'll pull from an account manager pool of people from other industries that served, or from other verticals or markets that serve that industry, because that usually works a lot better, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, and what you can get lucky on is it's a double. This is the double whammy. You ready for the ultimate move, Johnny?
Yeah.
Finding somebody that was in sales that doesn't want to do sales anymore as an account manager is the double whammy. Why? They can speak to that customer for days. They have the relationships, and the double whammy part of it is they can also bring you net new deals.
Yeah, which we want.
Yeah. So a lot of salespeople, they have a kind of a tenure where like after 5 or 6 or 7 years of doing something, they just, and the quotas, and they change their comp plans, and they're just like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. If somebody gave me an opportunity to work in this industry, but doing more CSM stuff, customer success manager, they usually take it. And that's sometimes the career path for a lot of internal teams, where they'll start off as an SDR, kind of work their way up, become an account exec, work their way up. And then at that point, they might go to product side of the business, or they're going to go to CSM side of the business, or they might, roll back up into a revenue leadership type role. But I'm a big fan of grabbing salespeople and putting them into account manager positions, because they already understand the pain points. They understand the markets. They understand the way those customers think. They know how to communicate with them. And it's just a powerful way to recruit, to build out that org.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel with this one, I do want to maybe recruit a more senior type individual, because it's a lot of risk, right? It's like, it's your biggest client, your most precious client. You represent a lot of revenue. So I have to be really secure that, the person I'm going to put in front is going to deliver. And I'm not an experienced, I'm a first-time founder, first-time CEO. I'm not an experienced account manager. So I do want to learn to a degree off someone also.
For what it's worth, just to give you like a ballpark kind of industry norm, usually an account manager can handle $2 to $3 million of business, right? So this new customer, how big of a deal size would they be on an annual basis?
Probably about $500,000.
Yeah. So think of it that way: is an account manager should be able to handle 4 of those accounts, maybe 5 of those accounts, right? Because that's the kind of revenue level that needs to be true for you to make the business work and scale. But they also need to be accountable for expansion revenue. So I'm a big fan of saying, hey, here's the way we expand accounts. Here's how we keep accounts. You're responsible for, it's almost like a book of business or a revenue. It's almost like their own P&L, right? They've got customers coming in. They didn't bring them in, but they got to keep them, and they got to expand them as part of their comp. So you can do a base plus a variable based on those 2 components, the retention and the expansion.
Yeah. And I see it as a farming role. I don't see it as we've separated customer success out, and we look at them as like happiness. So they're very much NPS scores around that, but that we see that as a separate function. Very much it's a sales type role. So I do like you said, someone acts sales. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. A lot of people still struggle with like, does my CS person also sell? Do they just identify opportunities and then bring in the salesperson? It sounds like what you want to do is bring in an account manager that's responsible for growing the account, and then leave the success components, activation, engagement, onboarding to a different department, which is fine. they still try to act as the quarterback for the account so that everything's getting moved forward, because it's hard to expand if they're not even being successful, right? It's hard to expand if they're not even consuming the current product that they've bought. So I love that you want to do that, because it centralizes the revenue growth and not having people making introductions and trying to move things around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Awesome. What was else on your radar, Johnny?
So we've really executed well in the pharmacy market here in the UK and Ireland. We'd see ourselves as one of the market leaders. But we believe the solution that we've created isn't unique to pharmacy. It's actually applicable across wider healthcare. How do you make that decision about when you move to an adjacent market? At what point do you do it? And secondly, how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I had to deal with that so many times. I mean, it's literally one of those decisions that every entrepreneur has to deal with, both, going to market in a sales motion, like when do I add a different vertical? When you're a platform, when do we go after a different segment of the market? I think of it a few ways. One, until I get about 20% of the total addressable market, like I feel like there's enough headwind and room for me to kind of build into, right? So, I mean, you would know best, this is the market I serve, UK and Ireland. What's the total number of pharmacies? But within that, what are the actual, the specific number that we could actually work with based on our ICP? And then of that, what's our kind of current concentration of that market, to give you a sense of penetration rates, right? And I'm just a fan of focusing before I move on to another one, because it sounds exciting, right? Like, oh, it's so similar to this, right? I had a client that sold to real estate agents, and they wanted to sell to real estate investors, and it was like 10% different product, right? Like we had this module, and it's like real estate agents and now real estate investors, doubles the size of our market, and they're already in our pipeline, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What you forget is, one, you now have two positioning statements you got to go after in the marketing side of things. You have a completely different, typically, hopefully, you have a different pitch deck, right? Because the language, the words, the case studies, they all have to align with that new market. You have a different setup of challenges potentially around onboarding activation. As a marketplace, you've got the supply side, the demand side, you got to get to work well. And the truth is, if you look at the amount of effort to do that, if you're still in the single digit kind of penetration of a market, my gut says double down and try to figure out how can you deploy more effort, resources, or capital to grow that size of the market. And then decide maybe once you get to 10, 15, 20%, usually for me, it's about 15 to 20%. That's when I go to the next one. And I kind of do the same playbook until then I go to the next one, right? Because the truth is most companies don't fail from too many opportunities, what I call indigestion or starvation. They fail because of indigestion. They do too many things. And then it's funny because then stuff stops working. And then they don't know what's not working because they're doing too many things. It's like they got 5 different markets they're going after, that 5 different sales motions, 5 different account manager categories. It's like you guys aren't talking, not sharing best practices. It's just complexity, right? Businesses die under the weight of their complexity. And the longer you can focus on a specific market and build up that revenue, and I call it unlocks. You want to set the target for the revenue, and you might be there. You might say 3 million ARR. That's my number. So it's like 6 months from now, you get to 3 million. It unlocks. So when people say, well, when can I add this extra module, or when can I go into another market? I just go, what do you think's reasonable? Is it, a couple $100K in MRR, or is it 100K, or to me, it's at least $1 million in top line revenue on an annual basis. But if you're past that, you say, well, there's still a lot of headroom here. Why would I go get distracted and doing another one when the speed of capturing net new revenue in an existing thing is literally 3 to 4 times easier, right? Johnny, I know there's other markets you can go after, but if you're honest with yourself, how much more efficient is it for me to go and grow the current thing 30% versus starting from 0 and building it up 30% to where I'm at? This thing's usually 3 to 4 times easier. right? Because you've got momentum, you've got market awareness, you've got case studies, you've got know-how, you've got best practice built out, you got the systems, you got the infrastructure. So I never say, don't do it. I just say set the goal that is a logical unlock to get you to start down another process. So that way it's not a decision you're always arguing with your team on. It's very logical and thoughtful, and it's based on data and not emotions. And then that way you can run as fast as you can run to the unlock is as fast as you can move to start working on that new one.
Great. That makes sense. Thank you for that.
So Johnny, as we land the plane and kind of like lock in some of these takeaways, what would you say are the biggest 2 or 3 things that I might have mentioned, shared that resonated the most with you?
Yeah, I'm going to take time to go through that EBR flow training that you have again, Dan. I've watched it before. It was very beneficial, but you've reminded me of it today. I'll go through that again. I liked your point about hiring from the industry. That's something I haven't thought of before. I think that's totally correct and something that we can do.
Especially the sales role, the double whammy.
Yes. Yeah.
And just for what it's worth, the way I do it is I find people that worked at these companies that would have sold to that. So like the suppliers, right? So the pharmacists have suppliers, and you can go on LinkedIn and you could search previously worked at. So you could type sales or account manager previously worked at, and then put the name of the supplier. And so that means they're no longer there. So you're not competing and pulling people from the industry, but you're going to pull them from somewhere else they might be at. They have the experience.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you for that. So if I can find a double whammy person, I'll be really happy.
Very cool. Well, Johnny, I really appreciate the time. Super fun. Obviously, I'm excited about the SaaS enabled marketplace space. I think it's one of the 6 SaaS trends I've been telling people about that are going to come. Same thing with SaaS and IoT. I think that's another big trend line. But building it 5 years, like I said, it's like having twins. It's double as hard. Most people don't have the stomach for it. So congrats on the early traction, and excited to see how things go.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Great chat, Johnny. Cheers.
Bye.